A warm welcome to our Energy Management and Energy Efficiency Seminar. And thank you very much for taking the time to come and be with us today. I would also like to thank the following industry representative organizations that have given us the support in this event. They are as follows: the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Institute of Packaging SA, Southern African Stainless Steel Development Association, Printing SA, President Engineering Industries Association, Steel and Engineering Industries Federation of Southern Africa, the Tool Making Association of South Africa, the Paper Recycling Association of South Africa, and the Minara Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And maybe just a brief introduction about who we are as a company. Able Energy is an energy management company that broadly focuses on electrical energy efficiency and utilities management. The energy efficiency improvement measures we provide are directed towards industrial and commercial facilities, whether you're owning that facility or you're renting that facility, with a principal objective to assist in optimizing your energy usage for purposes of managing the associated costs. At Able Energy, we do not focus just on a singular set of solutions. Say when we come to your building, maybe we just do the utilities billing for your tenants. But we take a wide spectrum view of the entire facility to help you identify the energy saving opportunities, discover issues which may relate to business activities, operational practices, and identify recommended improvements for better energy management and implementation. This process enables us to help create an energy management strategy that addresses your financial obligations and affords you scalability for the future. Our primary objective as a company is simply just to assist you to better manage your energy consumption, as well as reduce your operational utility costs. Hence the seminar that we are hosting today, which its purpose to come and showcase the various energy management solutions that your companies can benefit from. It also seeks to illustrate how to eliminate energy waste, reduce and control your current levels of energy usage and cost, as well as improve your existing operating procedures, as well as your overall business productivity. With that being said, I would like to call now our presenter, Gregory Diana. Thanks.
All right, yes, thanks very much for coming to attend. But the reality is 3 years ago, the National Business Initiative raised 150 million from the British government to do free audits. Some of them most probably came to your businesses and do that. But South Africa, countrywide, couldn't spend that money. So while people are jumping up and down and moaning at Eskom and electricity prices and all this type of stuff, when a golden opportunity presents itself, people are negative. All right? And there's a great skepticism around energy management, especially when you come to somebody and say, we're doing something for free. It's like, well, what's going on here? Is there a catch? Who gives things away for free? All right? And, you know, many of you are experienced in your own industries. And you know when you see a good opportunity, you can identify that opportunity because you've got the experience in your sector, right? And someone comes along and starts saying, but how's this, why is that, why is this, why is that? They don't have the expertise, but as soon as you say to them, you know what, I can save you R1 million and I want a portion of that. They suddenly become the biggest energy management experts you've ever found. And questions fire from all types of things. All right? So part of this, and those are the typical things that we've gone. We've gone to people and identified massive savings opportunities. But I don't know what it is, whether it's the egos, the mentality. They'll rather keep on losing 100,000 Rand a month than share 50% of it, for example. No. And that's the reality. So whether it's an ego issue or I'm too busy or whatever. So part of this seminar here is to try and understand the business model. All right? Now immediately you do that, you must remember, if there's an operational manager or a financial manager, you start showing them up. And that's not the case. The case is here, guys, we're coming here to help you. Put the egos away, rather look at the whole thing and let's do it. So I'm going to give you some examples here of that, how that model works for you, all right, and how we apply it. Now there's like some suspicion around this, okay? And I'm not being facetious here, I'm trying to tell you, the National Business Initiative, countrywide, got 150 million from the British government to invest in free audits. In other words, they would come to your facility, they would pay the consultants 30 or 40,000 rand to come and audit your building for nothing and give you recommendations. Over 3 years, they couldn't spend that money. All right? So what it's saying is there's a disconnect. Now, I was involved with that program. And for example, we use the Durban Chamber. The Durban Chamber has about 4,000 members. All right? And they're all crying about money and all this type of stuff. We put out that call to 4,000 members. What do you think we got a response? Out of 4,000 members, what do you think we got a response? This was eThekwini Energy Office. What type of response do you think we got out of 400?
10%.
10%?
Yes.
Okay. We got 3 people responding. Okay? Alright, so we're going to move on now. And the main thing here is to show you basically the business model, how it works. We'll give you an example and then we'll move on from there. Alright, so in your agenda, the engineering department versus the mechanical versus electrical, and they've all got to have returns of 18 months or whatever it is, and the biggest one will win. Okay? So I'll give the example of Richards Bay Minerals. We went up there, you know, they got a little truck which tips the coal. So the coal comes in and it tips it out. So we were going to refurbish that and put energy saving, and I think the project would save them about 500,000 or whatever. And the guy just laughed at us and he said, oh, you know what? You see that ship over there, there's a conveyor belt, and the links on the conveyor belt breaks. And when that happens, we get wharfage penalties. And he says, at the moment, we're sitting at 80 million for the year. So 500,000 is, we're not even going to win. So those are the realities that you face. Even though it's a good bet, it's not a priority. So then, monitoring, targeting, manage, and control of energy. So, you know, this here, very few companies actually do. Some do, but a lot don't. The majority of them don't. They just run their business and, oh, something's wrong somewhere, let's fix it up. That's where all the problems start. So you can only start really saving energy when you monitor, you target, you manage, and you control your energy usage and costs. It's got to be an ongoing thing. The way to do that is through an energy management system with energy dashboards, and then metering, and then we talk about some examples here of thermal storage systems. In commercial buildings, give it to me and I'll run it and make money. Nah. So, what do? It's like, well, there's an opportunity. They don't even want to share. It's just like, I'm not interested. A lot of people have a problem. You know, I've been in this game like many of you have been in your game for many years. I can go and look at an electricity bill and say, I can save you X amount. Or how can you do that? Now, I'm not going to tell you. That's my intellectual property. And people seem to get upset by that. Okay, the point is that's what you've got experience with. If you've got experience and you can see an opportunity, you're not going to tell other people. That everybody now wants to know how can it be done. And it becomes an ego issue. It's like, well, I didn't see that, or it can't be, or whatever. All right? And I'll give you an example of that. Then when you come in there and start doing some analysis, all right, and find out you can find a saving, it becomes a difficult thing. Oh, how do you know this? How do you know that? Well, you know, I know it because you've been ripped off. And somehow some ego issue creeps in there as well. Alright, so let's look at the project and financial model. Alright, so as I said, many are aware of the cost and impact of energy. Right? We see it in the paper all the time and people talking about it. Many are aware of the need to save energy. Yeah, it's costing us. How are we going to save? Yes, we want to save. I just don't know how to do it. All right? If so, why is there so much energy wastage and excessive utility bills? So we go to clients all the time and we just see money being thrown down the drain. Okay? And people just don't want to do anything about it. And they find every excuse. Alright, so in some cases it's very difficult to motivate for CapEx, as I said, for people who are in a more structured business and you've got different divisions, you've got to fight against each other. So that's where we come along and say, you know what, if you're fighting for CapEx, but you've got an operational budget, and I can free up 30% of your operational budget, you don't have to go to management and ask for CapEx and motivate. It's coming out of your OPEX. You've already committed. Oh, no. Then you get another 10,000 excuses. All right? So it's like, okay, well, what do you want? Then there's need for very short payback periods. So some projects can pay themselves back very quickly. Some can't. All right? And that's why when you're in a business, you need to look at your life cycle. When you're here, are you here for 5 years? Maybe you're there for 30 years. Some people we've been to, they're renting and their lease is ending up in a year's time or whatever, so it's not worthwhile or whatever it is. So when you go along, you need all this type of information, all right? Because in some cases, 6 years does make sense because you're going to be there for 30 years, all right? So the net result is nothing gets done and energy and financial losses continue. So it's like a circuitous route. You know, yes, we want to save energy. There's a problem. When you're told of the problem, no, it's not worthwhile doing. And the final thing is does this sound all too familiar? I'm sure you've had this within your own organizations. Right? But I can do this. Yeah, but it's not a priority. So what is a priority? Okay. My personal view is if you don't walk into any company which has an energy management policy, you walk away because you're going to hit into all these problems. So if a company isn't committed to doing something and it's not part of their bottom line, you'll spend time. On the other hand, there's some people you walk to, they listen to you, then 2 weeks' time there's a contract signed, you go in, you make your savings and it's done and dusted. Alright? And clients are happy and all that type of stuff. So not all negative, but what we experience is there's more negatives than positives. Okay? Let's put it this way, if energy management was fishing and we had to make a living off fishing, we would die. Alright, so what we want to look at is when it comes to utility management and saving money and stuff like that, what do you need to know? It's not just an electricity bill. Somebody in the municipality said, okay, you on business in general, how did I design that tariff and why? Why is your sector or that area being charged like this? Or so on and so on. So you need to understand all these things. Right, so for example, you don't see it in etiquette, but with Eskom, you know, most of the power is generated up here. Alright, so as you go further away, your energy becomes more expensive because to transport the energy down here, there's losses. So you can see, for example, if you want a business, why do you think many things are located around Pretoria, Witbank, Nelspruit, all that type of stuff? Because the energy is cheaper there. So if you've got 2 factories or 3 factories, one there, and one there, and they do exactly the same thing, all right, there's going to be different costs involved, whether you like it or not. So your product's going to be 3% more expensive if you're 900 kilometers away, as opposed to someone who's within 300 kilometers. All right, so that adds on to your bottom line. 3%, big numbers when you start talking about big numbers. All right, the where, okay? So, for example, there's these things. If you're less than 500 volts, there's a loss factor of 1.11. If you're between 500 volts and 66, 1.09. So, what is this telling you? You're on time of use. What is that telling you as a consumer? eThekwini have this as well, but what is this telling you? All right, I don't know if you understand, but there's also public holidays. All right? So, for example, Human Rights Day, which occurs on a Wednesday, which is a weekday. All right? It's actually a Wednesday. What is it? It's treated as if it was treated as a Sunday. So, does anybody ever check on these holidays that they actually charge these rates by the municipality? Does the municipal bill say there were several holidays during this week, this month, and for that you got charged this? I mean, what is that? And with their new revenue system, do you really trust it? So, this here is just very simple. That's the consumer price index, okay, since 2003. This is Eskom. So this is when Eskom went on this big splurge, all right, and the national energy regulators cut them back. Eskom wanted to continue like this, okay, and continue throwing money down the drain. So they've been reined in now, okay. And the only good thing about this, of course, is that it's made energy management more focused. Because obviously if the tariffs are so low, nobody does energy management because it's too cheap. All right, and then there's the how much. So common cost drivers are rand per customer per month, typically for customer service and admin, rand per kVA. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is what's sitting on the other side. The Eskom guys looking at you as customers and saying, how are we going to squeeze money out of you? All right? So there's all these things that are happening in the background. There's someone now sitting there in Eskom, sitting in the municipality, deciding, guys, the chamber will tell you we need to stimulate business. All right? The Durban Electricity is saying we need more money. All right? So there's like competing things. So there's people sitting in the background there, plotting away. So what I'm trying to say to you is electricity pricing, water pricing is not a simple thing. There's people looking at it all the time, and it's something which you guys don't do. It's just something you get in the post at the end of the month, you look at the bill, and you pay it. And nobody questions it. Because if you question it, they cut your lights off. So they use these bullying tactics deliberately because they don't want to suffer from cash flow issues. All right, so as I said, Able Energy's got a project and financing model. All right, we like to come in, say to you, look, we'll look at your organization, we'll free up money, and then we'll work from there. And we enter into an agreement, and generally people, you know, how much, you know, I might spend 100,000 rands worth of fees, and it ends up being an unviable project. So we lose that. If I come along and I say I'm going to make R1 million a month, oh, now that's, well, first of all, we discovered the 1 million. You didn't even know it was there. So you were losing this million a month. Now if I say I want 50% of that, it's a sin. Okay? You want to lose 100% or you want to make 50%? Okay? And the point is what's very difficult in our game is if you tell the client this, then they go and do it themselves. All right? So people have to respect intellectual property. The proof is in the pudding. If I take the risk, if I change the tariff, and that savings made, it's made. You can't take it away. All right? You're saving 427,000 rand a month. Now, if I ask for 50% of that, it's a sin. But hold on, you're losing that every month. Anyway, if I hadn't come here, you lose this every month. Multiply that by a year. Okay. So the question is, all right, so we've done that. Is that everything else? Well, let's see. Is the job done? Okay, so we've saved 427,000. Okay, now we go here. You go to these tariffs. You'll see that that customer is sitting between 500 volts and 66 kV. There's a certain tariff that's applicable. There's that charge, 711. If you come down here, you see the same thing. In that voltage range, they're paying 14 Rand 25 and 27 for network charge. If that company went and said, okay, I'm going to buy my own transformer, let's say they bought a 132 kV transformer. Suddenly, they get different rates, much lower, 7 Rand, 6 Rand. Okay? Here they go from 14 Rand 25 to 5 Rand 10. Here they go from 27 to 4 Rand. Alright, I think it's 4 Rand. So let's take that now. Is that all? So let's have a look. Here's the original bill. Now you didn't see in the original bill, but Eskom were billing them every 15 days. Saving 20 million like this in an organization says what? It says what about the engineers? It says what about the finance people? It says what about the CEO? So it becomes an ego issue. Alright? And people will rather leave it and make the loss than sort of say, you know what, I've sort of been shown up. And it's not about showing you up. It's like, guys, you've got other things to do in your lives. We came along and we saved you 20 million. If you just did this. What is the sin about that? But unfortunately, people just won't buy into it. Okay? Why? I have no idea. So that's basically, alright, forms the basis of how we come in. So we come in and we say, you know what, if you do these things, you can save 20 million. Right? Now let's go ahead. The 20 million is coming out of the savings. You don't have to raise the capex, nothing. It's coming out of the savings. You would have had to have budgeted for those electricity costs anyway. Right? So rather than pay to Eskom, you're now giving half to yourselves and half to us. All right? So we work on a shared savings basis with a buyout option. So we take a risk. When we come to a client, we don't know whether we're going to save 1 Rand or 1 million Rand. If it's a reasonable amount, we lose out, or we walk away from the project. If it's a lot of money, we realize, you know what, okay, we saved you 20 million, all right, and the contract's, let's say, 3 or 4 years. Well, then buy us out. Give us 2 years worth of it, cash up front, and you take the rest for yourself. So you come to a compromise. So we give a buyout option. A lot of people, when we put our contract in, what's this buyout option? The buyout option is, well, okay, we don't want you to sit around here making money for the next 5 years. Go away. Okay, we'll go away. Buy us out and we'll go away. We'll do a deal. So if that company says, here's 10 million, there you are, off you go. Okay, you're free of the contract, whatever. Right? But you must remember that buying us out also transfers the responsibility back to you. So it's not like, you know, we were doing something, oh, you've come and solved our problem, and now you've gone away. In other words, it's just a money thing. Well, the problem wasn't a money thing. The problem was a people's thing. So if you kick the people out who actually identified the savings in the first place, you're shooting yourself back in the foot. So, and we take the responsibility. If we make a mess up with a tariff, we pay, not you. If you change the tariff and you mess up, you pay. So there's risk with all of this. All right, so once we've done all that, all right, what we tend to like to do is to say to a client, all right, let's put a meter in your main incomer or in your production facilities or in your landlords or your tenants or whatever it is, and we can manage costs. So it goes back to this whole thing again. All right, I've explained that. So here, for example, is a customer, right, which typically you can see they come in during the day, there's air conditioning comes on and it goes. There's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. This is what we call a load profile, right? And when you put metering in, you can start seeing this. See what an average Monday looks like, Tuesday and whatever. So for example, there's a base load here, there's a continuous use of electricity. You can put PVs during the day, which can take care of this. So that's how we start analyzing how you can make further savings and investments and stuff like that. Right? So this peak here is during the day. If you put a PV in there, you could most probably cancel it out. But you don't want to try and cancel all this out. There's a big base load here. All this green here can be saved. All right? So instead of that looking like that, you could bring it down here somewhere, say like down to here. But you can only do this once you've got the metering and monitoring in place. If you don't have it in place, you just see this as a number at the end of the month like that electricity bill. The main thing is that you want to get this information in these devices back up into your system. There's little systems which come along and they've got, sorry, this is a bit small, but one of the problems you have is that there's ABB, there's Siemens, there's this, there's that, and each one of them have got their own industrial protocol. Right? So you get devices now which can take all those protocols and put it back into English or Zulu, whatever it is that you wanted to talk. Okay? But you sitting here as managers, as technicians, engineers, you don't want to get involved in this nitty-gritty. You just want to make sure that it works, it gets back, and it runs. Alright, so these are all the different types of protocols that are out there in existence. That's a fraction of them. There's much more. Okay? And what you don't want to do is get locked down into a particular supply. You want to be able to say, I can have ABB here, Siemens here, this one, that one there, and they all talk to my system. They got a different business model where they want you to only use them. Alright, here's a typical thing of hot water, which we did for the Edgewood College at the university. These guys here use a tremendous amount of hot water. Alright, so what we did is we used some heat pumps, and we used a plastic tank. Any of you who do heat pumps or things know that the cost of this installation is actually in the pressure vessels. So a 10,000 litre pressure vessel can end up costing you 300,000–400,000 rand. Okay? The cost of all of this and the heat pumps was less than the pressure vessels. That was a 10,000 litre JoJo tank. Cost us 15,000 or 20,000 rand. So basically this is the time of use. This is how students use water. So water is getting used, and then the students get up, and then they use it during the day, and then off it goes. So this was monitored over many months. And this here, alright, so you'll see here, this is the water consumption. So there's water consumption all day. Not just in the morning and in the afternoon. There's water consumption all day. Alright? That monitors all the residences. That's the energy. Okay, so what we did is after the thermal storage, this is what happened. We made all the water hot in the off-peak, and during the day, that's the pump which was running. So you go down here to 43 cents a kilowatt hour, 2 Rand 50, maybe 80 cents, 80 cents here. So the system paid for itself. First of all, using the JoJo tank in a non-pressure system, just the capex paid the project off, and then on top of that you still made the savings. Then on top of this we used low flow shower heads. Alright, so in other words we put low flow shower heads, and we got a 30% reduction in water through the shower heads on top of that. So I'm saving the university at the moment something like about 7 million a year, just by putting in low flow shower heads, and then you put the other stuff on. So this is an example of how the air conditioning works, how the hot water works. Big problem is pressure vessels. Okay, if you use pressure vessels, you can't see these savings. There's an example of the HVAC again. It's exactly the same. So here we we make cold water at night, and we run. This is during the summer months when it's hot. Okay. Otherwise, if you wanted to run like it does in winter and summer, you have to have massive amount of tanks. So you end up wasting money anyway. So you've got to sort of say, well, during summer, we let the chiller run a little bit during the day, because when people design an air conditioning unit, they design it for the hottest day of the year. Okay? And that occurs maybe 2 or 3 days every 10 years. So there's what it looks like in off-peak when it's running nice. You charge it up, it runs, charges up, runs, needed a bit more of a charge. And this here, you can see we weren't utilizing the Saturday and the Sunday. So the Sunday we could have put more tanks in, and during the Sunday we could have run the chiller and charged more tanks. Okay, and that would have brought this down. But it's a sort of cost-benefit ratio. All right, I'm just going to show you some stuff now. where, for example, we talk about dashboards and all this type of stuff, how we've got tools which can integrate all these things. This is the last slide called the calendar graph. So what I've done is I've taken energy or the load profile from a facility, right? And I've found out what an average day is. So if you look at all of those, what does an average day look like? Well, it looks something like this. Sorry, it's gone off the screen. And then I take this energy and I add it up, and it gives me what's called the baseline. All right? So each day I can see whether we're running under or whether we're running over my average. So I can go along and tell you, you know what, there's something wrong with your facility. It's using too much energy today. Go and check. And I've actually done this for the municipality where, for example, rags got stuck in the impeller. And suddenly, instead of doing this, it did that. And they sent somebody out and they found out, yes, there was a rag stuck in the impeller. They pulled it out. Just pulling that rag out saved the funds for the entire project. Otherwise, they would have run like that for 2 or 3 weeks without knowing it. Okay? So these are the types of analytics that we do. This is separate, and now we can integrate this into other tools. Sorry. Here you can see there's all different dashboards and that you can do. There's industrial plant, all different types of dashboards that we can configure up, depending on what it is that you want. All right? And we can pull that all in. Let me just see here. So this is live. So depends on your internet connection and a whole lot of things. So there, for example, we can look at the bottling line, in this case, data display. So this is real-time trending. We can look at that, we can encapsulate it all into one thing. If we want to go to our company website, we just do this. All right, we're given here a real-time example. So in this particular case, like the Schneider stuff, where you were looking at stuff in real-time trending, this is doing the same. So this is a factory up in Newcastle. All right, and I'm just showing here, that's the voltage, and here's the data being collected. You'll see it will change every couple of seconds. So we can bring real live data if you need it, or we can bring the historical data, or we can bring a mix. We can take tools and integrate them into the dashboard so that you've got one consolidated portal to see all these things. All right? So that's the sort of value add that Able Energy adds, is to say, look, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you've got stuff there, let's see if we can integrate it and utilize it. If you need something new, we'll do the new, but if you want to integrate something, we also know how to integrate.
So that's live now, that's web-based.
That's web-based, it's live. Now you'll see here it's changing every. Unfortunately, the lights are bright, so you can't see it. Maybe if you just turn the light off that side here. Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's live. So we're actually monitoring that from Newcastle in where's it? KwaZulu-Natal. And we can record this and do whatever it is that you want to do with it. Okay? That's not our business. We've just got the tool which can do the job. So, for example, here's a historical example. Sorry, this is just a bandwidth issue. So this is your demand, that's your power, that's your reactive power. We can take our energy. You can see down the bottom here, that maximum demand corresponds to that. this energy, in other words, the energy underneath here is totalized, 10213. This is the same for the reactive energy, and there's your average. So we've got all those stats. Basically, we can compile this to, if you want it upside down, left, right, or whatever it is. So you can see here energy per day, per week. If you do that per month, you'll see there that that there corresponds to that. So we've got different ways of finding these things out. We can also do time of use. So for example, you want your tariff, you just download your tariff booklet. If you want to see your time of use periods, all right, come on. Sorry, the PC is slow. So what we've done here is we've identified when the maximum demand occurs. So if you go up top there, you'll see it occurs at that time, which is exactly the same as what we've got here. So in other words, if we wanted to do the bill and check your bill, we've got all the elements of the bill right there. All right? And we can have a page which says, look at the billing, look over the previous months. Here you can look at any month and check the bills. So here we can go along and say, well, here we're looking at April, maybe we want to look at May. And you'll see it'll update. Takes a bit of a while. All right, so there we are. So here you can see, for example, this is quite interesting. You see your maximum demand occurred over here, but your peak energy or power occurred over there. So they don't always occur at the same time. All right, and you can look at these trends and do billing. You can look at your production. You can do a whole lot of things. We take this data here and we pull it into that, and then we can do the analytics and analysis and all that sort of stuff for you. So you can have that online, or you can have it as a report, or whatever you want to do. Okay? You can see I've got all different things there. Average weekday, today versus yesterday, this week versus last week, so it's whatever. And you'll see at the top here, you can download or you can share. So if you want the data, you can pull it down onto your machine. We've got, and this is just a demonstration, but we've got a portal where each customer can have their own system. And we can take this and pull it into the other dashboard. So it's all integrated for you. Okay, so you can see your SCADA system, your operational system, your existing systems all under one thing. All right, I think that's enough of me.